Going live. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our second music business webinar. It's wonderful to have you here again. Not sure who's joined us on Facebook, but this is Cameron from New Music SA. And on the other side, I have Ignacio Priego, my trusty counterpart in all New Music SA stuff. And without him, I wouldn't be able to do what we do. So thanks to Ignacio for always being amazing. And you're in for an amazing presentation. This man has a wealth of knowledge, and really excited to be here. Just a shout out to our sponsors, particularly Samro and the Samro Foundation. Really amazing sponsorship from you all there, and yeah, thank you for supporting us in this very important series of webinars. Ignacio was born in Madrid, Spain. He studied history and musicology and received an MBA in cultural management. In 2001, he founded Loop Circus, working for over a decade as music promoter, event producer, and DJ throughout Spain and internationally, in forums such as Venice and Havana biennials. Since 2010, he has lived and worked in Johannesburg and Maputo, except now he's based in Egypt, designing and implementing cultural programs throughout Southern Africa and Egypt and all over the world. He has developed arts projects for different local and international organizations, such as the Spanish Cooperation Agency, the Embassy of Spain in South Africa, British Council, or the UNESCO Chair of Cultural Policies. In 2013, he initiated the Music Mobility Fund. Since 2014, he has coordinated the South African Live Music Development Program, Concerts SA. And in 2015, he founded Post Post Music Agency and record label. Lots of experience there. And as I said earlier, he's currently based in Cairo, Egypt. Ignacio, wonderful to have you here. And I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Cameron, for this wonderful introduction, and hello everyone that is following. Let me begin by replicating what Cameron said about the vote of thanks. First of all, to our sponsors, Samro and the Samro Foundation, who are supporting this workshop series of the Digital Indaba 2021, themed around connectedness. And also to the broader New Music SA team, of course, Cameron Andrews himself, and the executive board. Today, it's the second of our music business webinars. During the month of July, we presented 4 webinars dedicated to creation, composition, and performance based on the main presentation activities of new music works done by New Music SA this year. And now during the month of August, we are presenting the webinars around music business. So last week we had David Lepoto talking about the ABCs of the music industry, and we are going to be talking today about professional markets and audience development for musicians. And next week we'll have Helen Poslu talking about fundraising. And at the end of the month, Cameron himself will be talking about different music profiles and careers in the music industry today. We've already thanked our sponsors, Samro Foundation. Here you can find also the others of this year's Digital Indaba, who we also thank, to the Rupert Music Foundation, National Council, and Arts and Culture Trust, NetBank. As mentioned earlier, this is the title of today's presentation, Professional Markets and Audience Development for Musicians. And I'm not going to lose more time, about introducing myself. I think Cameron did a great job. So just I'm going to introduce the session itself. Um, it's going to be structured in two blocks. The first one, we will look in detail at what an EPK is, and the parts it needs to have, breaking everything down to, in terms of how to achieve having a professional looking electronic press kit that can be used to source additional market opportunities. Then in the second block, we will look at the state of live music today. As most of you, if not all, know, it's been severely impacted by COVID, all the music performance sector. And so we'll be very briefly talking about what tours used to be and what live streaming is today, with the hope that in the future we can combine both in a very efficient way. So without further delay, let's start with the first block, the electronic press kit for musicians. Um, Excuse me. Yeah, back. Uh, First of all, well, we need to, in purpose of clarity, define what an EPK is. So let's quickly look at its three components: electronic press kit. A kit is a set of articles or equipment needed for a specific purpose. Then press. What press means in this context? Well, press means applies to prepackaged set of promotional assets that provide information about the person, company, organization, or a cause, which is distributed to members of the media or of the industry with promotional purpose. And lastly, why electronic? Well, because it's just opposed to physical material printed. In this case, the press kit is electronic and digital. So basically, an electronic press kit is a tool has become a norm today in terms of how to package together, pre-assemble, digitize promotional materials that consist basically on an artist biography and highlight the unique musical qualities. It's kind of a CV or resume for that musicians, artists, bands, composers, DJs, improvisers can present to music industry professionals, whether they are booking agents, promoters, and members of the media, for brand visibility, to maximize their chances of being booked on shows, basically. It makes you stand to get more press and get more gigs. Essentially, it's an online media marketing portfolio, which is designed to provide simple access to all your essential information. So in this sense, a successful EPK represents you as an artist, your brand, if you would like to call that yourself, and your musical identity. Before we go into the sections of the EPK, very briefly, why it's important to have a professional EPK? Well, first of all, to make a strong impression with venues, labels, promoters, and other industry professionals, and come across as an organized and professional musician. So some people, that's why they call it the electronic press kit, something like the electronic press kit, as it can actually make you look good or make you look bad, despite your artistic quality. The second reason to have an electronic press kit is to get more deals for gigs, endorsements, PR, and publications in general. And thirdly, an electronic press kit serves to provide music media with all the digital assets needed for your press coverage. Importantly to mention that an electronic press kit is not intended for musicians. For music fans. Your website itself can cater for your fans. You should engage with them in different ways. But an electronic press kit is a professional to showcase your talents to the music industry, not to your audiences. They are submitted by email to labels, booking agents, promoters, venues, media, and anyone who would like to learn more about you and your music on a professional level. Um, they can be attached to emails, either as a digital file, such a PDF, or as a link hosted file or EPK landing page. We'll look at that in a minute. So then, importantly, how do you build your EPK? What parts or sections should it have? Let's start breaking it down. First of all, section 1. Here we are, of course, in a music webinar. We are a music organization. I gather that all of you that are following this webinar are involved in music. So the most and first important section in an EPK is the music. It's the most crucial element of your EPK. That's why your EPK should include your very best tracks at the top of the EPK. Why we say 3? Because we probably 1 or 2 is too little, and over 3 it gets a bit overwhelming. So 3 tracks ideally, and you should list them in order. How do you choose them? Well, you can turn to fan feedback. You can look at the purchase history of your music, to your reviews, production quality, stream counts to help you decide. My suggestion, further on how to select them. Well, I think you should try to include your biggest hits. You should try to include your favorite track, and you should include your latest recording or release. Please try not to include a live recorded track unless it's a professional quality recording. Then, when you have selected these 3 tracks, one of them should be your feature song of choice, which will be highlighted in the EPK. Select what you consider to be your best song, your newest single, so you can immediately draw the attention of the person you want to make an impression on. Once you hook the person with a catchy tune, he, she, or they will be more likely to explore the whole EPK and listen to the rest of your songs. Then, importantly, about the music, as an EPK is meant and intended for music professionals, excuse me, and not for fans. I've jumped a bit on the slides. I'm back here. You should include them as downloadable assets and not as listening links. So how do you make your music available? You have different options. You may provide listening links from your online platforms, such as SoundCloud, Bandcamp, or if you have the service of an online distributor or aggregator, you can give these. We are talking about Spotify, Apple Music, etc. The other option, strictly as downloadable assets and not as a streaming link, you should provide a high quality format, either a WAV file, FLAC, or compressed formats such as MP3, but not lower than 320 kbps, because that's like the minimum if you're aiming for radio flagging. For these downloadable assets, you can use Bitly, Smart URL, O.ly, or similar shortening platforms, so that when people click on the link, you can track it and get even a better idea of how the posts are being engaged with. Here we can see, the first part of this structure that we are talking about. You may want to. I mean, this we are entering into design. That we'll talk about it at the end of this blog. But as you see, of course, a press kit needs to have the artist or band name. You need to have press photos that we'll mention in a minute. You sample tracks here, videos that we'll see, and of course, inquiries or contact section. So let's continue with this breakdown that we've just seen. Secondly, after the music, the biography your artistic music biography is another fundamental piece of the press kit. It's really a chance for you to spotlight the highlights and most important facts about your music career. So therefore, it should include brief details on how you started in your beginnings, what is your current, let's say, state of collaborators or lineup if you are a band. Thirdly, you should include your genre or genres that you play. You know, some people like to mention here not only the genre itself, but sometimes they speak as you know that you may sound like someone to give a reference to people that don't know you. But be careful with this because it can be tricky, risky, and also limiting and misleading. So choose wisely how you, let's say, define yourself from a genre and style point of view. Fourth thing your biography should include is your concert activity and maybe key tours that you've done, especially the most important ones and the recent ones. We'll look at that in a bit more detail in a minute. Also, your releases, previous or upcoming, and your milestone achievements. If you won any awards, you were charted on radio, you had any specific success with playlisting on streaming platforms, or you have performed at noteworthy festivals. Lastly, your biography should mention any significant collaborations you've done and any important endorsements from people, organizations, or brands who have publicly supported. My main tip in this case, your biography should tell not only a story, but and not just a story, but really your own and unique artistic story. You need to show your industry reps that you are one of a kind. For this, you may want to share specific stories from behind the curtains and let visitors discover more of your human side as well. To bring them closer to the music. Second tip, bios should be well written. Please revise them as many times as needed. No typos. Run them through your friends who are good with words. And please be clear and concise so that with this, it's easy to be engaged when reading it, and it makes it easier to follow. Also, they should be up to date because it's quite common that you come across biographies, especially online, that are not updated. So when the source of information is you directly, you should make sure that it's updated because probably everything that can be found online will already be old. Then closing with the tips for the bio, you should, depending on the state of your career development, on the kind of and the amount of assets that you are planning to develop, you should keep different kind of bios, depending on their extension. For example, you should have a very short one, of 1 or 2 sentences that we call an elevator pitch. Then going a bit longer in extension, you can have a short bio that we would say it's like one long paragraph of about 100 words. Then we have a medium bio that can be like 2-3 paragraphs, 200 to 300 words. And lastly, your long bio that can be 4 to 6 paragraphs and 4 to 500 words. These extensions, as we say, they will be used in different contexts by different professionals depending on where and how you're going to be featured in a specific publication, event, etc. Again, as we said with the music, you have to make your bio available not only in the main EPK document, but if you have these different versions of your bio, depending on the length, you should make them as downloadable assets. Great. We've looked at the bio. Here we have another example from UA bands. As you see, we see four pictures on the right column, and then the two-thirds from the left-hand side are occupied by a short bio, by a quote from a respected industry professional, Roy Hargrove in this case. We have then the music links, and we have the press. So let's continue because we've talked so far only about music and bio. Next in line are the images, the photographies, and the artwork that may want to make available. We've all heard the expression that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So you should make sure that the ones that you choose to be featured in your electronic press kit speak loud and well enough. Professional looking photographs are a must on any press kit. They are your official promotional image. You should make sure to include a compilation of high resolution pictures to fit varying layouts preferences or of different media outlets. In this sense, the sizing, you should have landscape options, horizontal, uh, portrait or vertical options, and also square ones. We know that high quality press shots are very large files, similarly to music files. Therefore, again, it's important to never include them as attachments, nor as zip or compressed files when sending emails. You should always try to, again, downloadable assets, provide links for that. We've talked size, now we are going to talk quality. We normally work with three kinds of quality for pictures. One for print that is measured in this kind of quality is measured in DPIs, dots per inch, and the print quality is normally around 300. For web options or good quality webs, normally 180 DPIs is recommended, and for social media purposes, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and those, we normally work at a lower resolution of 96 dpi. However, you should make sure that you have the highest quality option always available. Then we've talked size, we've talked quality. We also need different types of pictures. For example, musicians would need to have a portrait or pose style, of you solo or the band you play with. Sometimes they go for artistic style pictures in line with your artwork, your identity, your style, genre, etc. And then between musicians and in general performing artists, you have action pictures that portray you performing on stage or recording at the studio. You may also want to include your most recent album or single cover image, the release artwork, which can be helpful, especially for reviewers and other journalists. Least important or secondary would be your event that don't really need to be featured on your EPK as they drive the attention more towards the event rather than from you as an artist. Important, these pictures need to be credited properly. Your artist band name, and depending on the ownership, you need to credit the photographer. If they are action pictures, you should include the event name, festival, venue, date, place, and again name the photographer, as probably you will not have commissioned those. They will be by the event organizer, and you should request permission and clarify the rights of use of those pictures. Quick tips on pictures: they should be in color, ideally. You are welcome to provide additionally black and white versions of them, but not only black and white versions. You should select one picture, your favorite one, as cover of the EPK, as this will be the first point of entry and of interest for those people you are sending your EPK to. And that's basically it in terms of images. Here we have another example that I grabbed from a female American songwriter And as you see, there are several, very post pictures and action pictures in this case. Let's continue with the fourth section of your EPK, which is the discography. It's pretty much straightforward. Here you should list all your albums and singles. And how you do it is that you need to put the name of the artist or band name that is that the release is attributed to, the title of the release in full, the record label. If it's a demo, it's absolutely fine, but you need to specify it, and the date of release. It doesn't need to be super precise to the day, but you need to put the year. For this purpose, you may want to check websites such as discogs.com or allmusic.com, which are a reference for music discographers. Then, fifth section, the music videos. Having a video that captures your artistic personality and demonstrates your live performances will very likely help you when sending your EPK to industry professionals. Moreover, music videos or promotional videos provide multimedia content for writers to share with the readers. In this sense, music writers are far more likely to feature an artist with a compelling video that accompanies their music. So it really increases your chances of getting featured if that is your objective. Similarly, promoters are more likely to book you for a gig if you have a great live video showing of your chops on stage. But important to note, live videos, the visuals may be good, but what is definitely critical is that the sound is on point. If this is not the case, it will work against the purpose, and it's better not to include it in the EPK. Again, as we talked with the music and the pictures, the videos need to be of medium or high quality. Low risk is only valid for social media purposes, not for professional purposes. Here, for example, we have, we get an example. We see two embedded videos. One is a live performance. Another one is an official video. We have one shot. We have what we'll see in a minute, the previous events and the contact details. So let's go to the links. What are we? Which links are we talking about? Well, it's basically the links of your artistic online presence as an artist. This means that you can include your website, for example. You can include your social media links on your preferred platforms, whether they are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, etc. Just list them. And your links to the streaming platforms that are used where you are most active at, or that are more used in the regional market that you are approaching. Lastly, you may want to include the specific online shops where to purchase your music, such as Bandcamp, if you use it. So next section after the links is the press quotes. Of course, you do not need to have been featured or interviewed on music websites, magazines, TV, or radio to have a press kit. But if you have, make sure to include them in it. They should be short quotes and links to press coverage that can be from your album reviews, can be media pictures, hand letters, even YouTube comments, and that kind. Also, you may add other favorable reviews or testimonials from respected music industry professionals, as we saw earlier in that EPK with Roy Hargrove. Here you have a short example of that is this one is divided in two columns. On the left-hand side, we see press quotes with the links and with the logo of the publication in most cases. And on the right-hand side, we have another series of press quotes that apply to concert reviews. And again, with the logos of the publications and the links for the full reviews. So this is quite nicely done. We are about to close the sections of the EPK. What would you need to close with? We've mentioned earlier that you could include your tour dates in your bio. However, depending on the length or the importance of them or who you are approaching, if it's mostly live music professional or sector, you may want to enlarge that section of the tour dates, maybe even take it out partially or totally from your bio and devote a specific section for it. In terms of the tour dates, there are two main parts. Of course, first the past ones that you may have done, again highlighting the most important venues, festivals, promoters, and then the second part will be the upcoming tour dates, any forthcoming gigs, tours, or shows. Help booking agents to know what kind of, let's say, development you are trying to pursue in the upcoming months or years. And lastly, no, second last, we have what some bands, some artists like to develop a lot, and others like, completely dislike it, which is the branding. When we talk here about branding, we are mostly talking about graphic branding that normally comes in form of a logo. Of course, this is not a must, and it's actually not even a norm in certain genres in the music industry, but in others, especially in certain commercial genres or styles from certain genres, bands to differentiate themselves like to have a logo. Normally, if you want to go with this option, you should try to develop a logo that has few colors, because if not, you are going to have problems. And it should be easily translatable to horizontal, vertical, and circle or square. Excuse me. There, I was just looking at the chat. So we were talking about the logo, and another possible option for branding can be having your name written in a special font. This is quite common, for example, in the electronic DJ music sector, and often the posters of festivals will only include the artist with that specific font that is easily recognizable for fans. Excuse me, coming back, now we are in the last section, which is the contact details. After all this effort that you've done of compiling your best music, bios, pictures, videos, links, and quotes, what you should not forget to do is to provide the contact details of, not directly of yourself or of a band member, but ideally from your, let's say, larger team, if you have one. That can be your management, an agency, or a manager himself or herself, or themselves, booking agent or agents, if you work with several in different geographic territories. It can also be your publisher, or it can be your record label. And with this, we've covered the 10 most important sections that an EPK needs to have. We will look in a minute after we finish the EPK section, and we jump into the second block, live music today. We will look at two other assets that are a must when developing a professional career and looking for performance opportunities, which are the technical and hospitality rider and the stage plot. But before that, we are going to just make a couple of closing comments about the EPK. First, as you can see here in the slide, how to make available and accessible your your EPK. It should be readily available and easily accessible. Uh, just ideally with a single click. It might sound as a no-brainer, but once the media and other professionals start contacting you, this will be the best way to follow up with the requests. Remember to regularly update your files if they change on those in that link that you make available. How you can create that link? You have several options. You can go for file hosting services such as Dropbox, Google Drive, iCloud, WeTransfer, etc., to create accessible links that can be shared by emails. Second option is to include it on your official website where you can make your EPK downloadable or accessible from the site. As we mentioned earlier, the EPK is not for fans. So you should have a pro tab on your website that requires a simple password to be able to access it. And the third option is also when, well, now with COVID, of course, we've all been performing less um, and traveling less for professional events, showcasing events and conferences. But whenever you attend one of those, such as WOMEX, Moshito, Visa for Music, etc., you may want to print out a few copies of your EPK. Then another option that you may want to explore, especially for inspiration, or as we said earlier, depending on the stage of your career development, you know, whether you are a total beginner in the music industry or you may be a budding up and coming musician, you may be already semi-professional, or you may have been a professional musician for longer. But it's always good to check which, if any of these additional services that I'm going to mention in a minute may be useful for you. I'm talking about websites that offer tools and templates to host landing pages for artists and mostly for musicians. Depending on your preferences, your budget, and as we said earlier, the stage of your career development, you may want to go for one of these. I'm just going to mention a few, such as Bandsugle, Sonic Beats, Reverb Nation, Drupal, Adobe Spark, or even Music in Africa. All of them are websites that offer this online hosting option for your artistic EPK. Final tips and suggestions. You know, trying to wrap up what we've mentioned over the last 30 minutes in this first block of the electronic press kit. You should try to keep it concise, relevant, simple, and to the point. Give all your significant information in a way that is easy to read and quickly scannable. Second, include only your very best material. This applies to music, pictures, videos, writing, etc. Third, we said it just a second ago, you should keep it updated. You know, keeping it a well-organized press kit. Current should only take a few moments. You know, every now and then, whenever you reach another milestone in terms of performance, of recording, publishing, etc. Fourth, please make sure that your EPK represents you accurately. Don't overhype, don't exaggerate, and of course, don't lie. But maybe lying is more difficult, but it's very easy to include irrelevant information. So please try to avoid it. Fifth, the design. This is not my forte, so I'm not going to give any specific tips on design. There are professionals out there and talented people that are very good with visuals and with graphics. But the important thing on this regard is to try to stand out from, let's say, your competition. by making it eye-catching, unique, and without going overboard. It should just at least try to be aesthetically pleasant while presenting the information in an organized way. Then be cautious, as we mentioned earlier, about the file sizing when attaching your EPK to emails. Large digital files may get flagged, sent to the spam folder, rejected by the recipient, etc. So we don't want that. Instead, try to always use links to content on the web, such as the ones we've mentioned throughout the presentation. We've also said it, avoid sending zip files or other compressed file attachments. They will not get opened. Use rather file hosting services. And just closing, last tips. We've mentioned the idea of having at least a couple of copies of your printed version because you never know when you may need it or you may want to hand it out. And excuse me, I've moved. Yeah, tips and suggestions. And depending on your artist strategy, your target markets, and your development objectives, when you have your final EPK ready, you may want to translate it into another language or other several languages linked to your, let's say, geographic objectives, footprint of development, of markets, of identity, etc. So with this, I believe we close the first block that we've devoted to electronic press kits. I would then stop sharing a minute and open a short break for Q&A so that I can look at the chat in case there are any questions. Well, first of all, I welcome again all of you who I didn't see earlier. Ms. Henriette Chorn from Samro Foundation, and David Lepoto, who presented last week, board member of the CIC here. And starting with the questions, I see one here that says, is that EPK example a standard template? What format were you using? What about those who work across many genres? Too many to mention? General freelancer? Do you include short and long bios in EPK? Well, these are a lot of questions. Thank you to whomever has posted them. Let's begin, and I'll try to respond all of them and trying to be brief. There is no standard template. I mean, the images that I have used come from real examples that due to the short time that we have today, we are not going to be looking at several other examples. What I would suggest on this regard is two things. First, what I've mentioned earlier, please have a look for this kind of, let's say, template inspiration to those online EPK services that were mentioned earlier. Bandsugo, Adobe Spark, even Music in Africa, Sonic Beats, etc. If you don't remember or you don't want to write down all these names, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the presentation, but I will say it now, that we will make available on our website the PowerPoint presentations being used by presenters. So in that sense, that will help you to note down whatever names you may miss. If there is something that is not actually featured on the slides, at the end of the presentation, I will provide my email address, and you are welcome to contact me and request any specific information. Second question, what about those who work across many genres? Too many to mention. Well, in that sense, you can say that you are, excuse me, let's say, well-versed across genres, or you should try to use those that are, let's say, more holistic or more all-encompassing, if one can say so, trying to, with mentioning just a few broadening up the scope as much as possible. But if not, don't be shy. I mean, if you are competent in all those genres, just mention them. I don't really understand the question about general freelancer, but and then the last question: do you include short and long bios in your EPK? No, I wouldn't suggest so. You need to choose one length of bio. I just mentioned earlier that there are, let's say, four basic categories of music bio extension, but you should choose the one that works best with the format and extension of the EPK that you are designing. It's not only a matter of landscape and vertical, but as we said, of extension. That depends on how you want to present yourself. There is no standard extension for the EPK. One can see EPKs that are just one pagers, and one comes across EPKs that maybe surpass the 10 pages. The latter ones, I consider them a bit too long, because only when there is like a very deep interest in an artist that can be useful. If not, normally the assets that music professionals require are short. Cool. I'm going to continue with the questions in the chat. I see that Kumkani is asking the following. How can an upcoming musician make his, her, or their EPK attractive when they have little or no performance collaboration experience? More so when they don't even have a fan base. Well, this is something, Kumkani, it's a great question. I think what you need, as we've mentioned throughout the presentation, that you need to take into account which stage of career development you're at. And don't be shy, and it's great that you are thinking about an EPK at an early stage. If you have no performance or collaboration experience, you can just try to reverse it and say that you are looking for performance experiences, for collaborations in this or other kind. You should specify which kind of venues, which kind of events, which kind of festivals you are looking to perform at. But in general, what I would suggest, Kani, is that you try to look back at what you have achieved, what you are currently doing, and if that, let's say, doesn't suffice to get enough content for your EPK, as we were mentioning now, try to project it to the future and see and mention where do you see yourself in 1 year, 3 years, etc. I see now a question from Mr. David Lepoto. He asks, is it okay for artists and bands to use their own faces instead of a logo when branding themselves? Absolutely, David. I mean, here there is, there is no written law around this, and also depends on the kind of artist, but it's actually very common in certain types. For example, singers, songwriters, solo artists, they primarily use their own faces. This thing of the logo, it's, as we said, is more common in certain scenes or genres, like, as we said, the specific font in electronic music, the logo, for example, in hard rock and metal, they love this stuff. So it depends, but yes, their own faces are totally fine. So thank you, David, Kumkani, and those others of you who have asked questions. We are then going to jump to the second block, titled Live Music Today. In this block, first of all, structure. What is this going to be about? I've been thinking what to present. I was also quite worried about time. And what I had prepared was a very short intro about live music, concert production, gigging, and touring pre-COVID, let's say, and how we have all experienced in the last almost couple of years, live streaming has skyrocketed, trying to, let's say, make up temporarily the lack of real life concerts. So those are the two streams that we are going to follow. So let's start with the first one, the one about concert production and touring, before jumping quite quickly into live streaming, which I will try to devote more time to it. So around concert production and touring, I would like to mention first that Samro and the Samro Foundation have been supporting a program for live music in South Africa for several years called Concerts SA. It's still going on, and I suggest that you check their work and especially their reports. Why? Because they have published several reports from two pre-COVID and then a more recent one about live streaming. So I think that those assets, in addition to the digital venue map, to the resources that you can find there in terms of contracts, etc., I'm sure they will be useful for all those of you who want to continue pursuing a career in music and specifically in performing live. So, as we say, concert production and touring. Well, we all know what a concert is, what a performance is, and a tour that just not to be simplistic, but at least the tour involves more than one concert and normally in different cities, or at least different from the one that you are, as an artist or the band, are based in. Tours can be national if they happen in your own country, even smaller, yeah, provincial, if you do try to go deep into the rural. They can also be like regional if they happen in neighboring countries. They can be have a more continental scope. That's very common. As you know, you go to a certain continent and try to touch into and perform into several countries and markets, or you can just have a quite international tour, as big bands have and artists have been doing for decades, that involve traveling to different continents. We are just going to mention three important elements when thinking about doing a tour, planning a tour, and producing a tour. So first of all, finance and budgets. It's in general, traveling is expensive, but touring, which of course involves traveling, but much more, and normally more than one person, is really quite expensive. So calculating the expenses of what your tour involves in terms of operating expenses, artist fees, crew wages, and other overheads is really key if you do not want to embark yourself in a project that may have a very negative impact on your career. Second, I would like to mention that, of course, tours for commercial music initiatives, they can normally happen without having any kind of grant or public support. They normally, given their commercial nature and their higher reach, they tend to be more profitable just based on ticket sales and on private sponsors that are linked either to the artist or to the promoter, venue, festival. However, for many musicians, especially those that are either involved in not commercial genres or the lesser commercial side of certain genres, applying for a grant is normally a way in which you can at least have some level of security that your tour is going to happen, and reducing your risks should the ticket sales be low. I'm not going to talk much more about application writing and grants for one main reason, because it will be partially covered in next week's presentation by Helen Fuslu. as her session will be devoted to fundraising. I would just like to mention that there are multiple industry bodies uh, that all around, from a city level, provincial level, national level, cultural institutes, Pan-African organizations, etc., that can support you on a tour. There used to be several mobility funds, and now due to COVID, they have been temporarily halted, and some of them switched to live stream concert presentation. We will talk about it next, but we can only expect that when restrictions linked to COVID diminish, and live music starts coming, physical live music starts coming back, those support mechanisms will be resumed. Then a very quick comment about production and implementation, because earlier, while we were talking about the EPK, I mentioned two other assets that are important for an artist, for a band that wants to develop a career in the live music sector. One of them is a technical and hospitality rider, which maybe some of you have seen it. It's basically, let's say, I mean, the minimum elements of the technical and hospitality rider are the following. The technical rider needs to have a list that looks like this, where you have the different performers on the left-hand side, where it says name. Then the next column going to the right is the instrument each of them plays. Next, we have if they need an amp, each of those instrumentalists for their instruments. We then give the number of inputs, and we mention the number of microphones. That goes for what technical rider is. The hospitality rider, which is, let's say, more common from, let's say, at a minimal professional level, you need to have at least something basic to let the promoter know what are your basic requirements in terms of lodging and in terms of food, because there might be some dietary restrictions, some beverage restrictions that you or your band members or the performers that work with you have, and these need to be also specified.
Ignacio,
Yes, Cameron?
apologies for the interruption.
No worries.
I just noticed just towards the end there of your last point that the slide was stuck on Q&A, but we didn't miss a lot. So maybe you can just oh, there we go. Oh, it wasn't stuck. It was just me. I think it was just stalling a bit. Ignacio, you're muted.
Thank you, Cameron. Second one, I hope we don't miss it again. No, the voice, no, the presentation. I was just saying that I'm going to be going back because I think that, as we said, since the Q&A, the presentation, as you flagged, had been stopped. So this was the two parts of the second blog: concert production and touring, and live streaming.
Cool.
We've mentioned the finance and budgets. We discussed then application writing and grants. Thirdly, we were now on production and implementation. We talked about the technical and hospitality rider, and this is the only important slide that you may have missed, that this was the example of a technical rider that I was showing. That is, excuse me for not showing it before, the 5 columns that I was explaining earlier. As you can see in the left, each musician by, let's say, name, instrument, Second, the actual instrument that each of them plays. Then the requirement of amplification for each, the number of inputs, and the microphones that are required. And now we were just as Cameron was saying, we didn't miss many slides, and actually only one with an image. And we were now going to talk about the stage plan or stage plot, which this is what serves to communicate with the promoter what kind of distribution you want of the musicians and of those technical elements, microphones, amps that you've listed on your technical writer, how they are actually put on stage. This is a very simple one, just for a duo of lead vocal, as you can see, and a DJ with electronics. Each of them, as you see, has a mic. You have to give the orientation of where is the backstage, where's the crowd, and what is the right and left side of the stage. And that's pretty much the most basic way of how a stage plot should look. And this leads us to the second section or second part of this live music today. I wanted to go very quickly through the other part of, let's say, of the physical concerts, as I believe it's better known and it might be less done, unfortunately, these days. So without further delay, in this kind of, let's say, 30 minutes or so that we have, we are going to discuss the basics of music live streaming. I will try to, let's say, provide some kind of, comprehensive and more updated resource, for anyone seeking guidance on how to stage music events. We'll speak about certain tools, techniques, systems, platforms, and content that can, let's say, make your concert streaming look a bit better without going into high costs. In this sense, I'm sure that many of you, if not all, have at least attended a concert this year. So that's why I just want to start with some overall considerations before going into the nitty-gritty. I don't know if we have in the audience anyone who is, let's say, savvy with gaming, with video gaming, but the sector of video gaming, alongside another one that also some of you may be familiar with, which is the houses of worship, churches and temples. Both these two sectors have been quite, let's say, groundbreaking in terms of live streaming. Video gaming, even before COVID, and the houses of worship have been, especially, at the beginning of COVID, they really pushed a lot forward. And I think that the music sector has been learning and can continue learning from those two areas of expertise. In terms of some general considerations, I just want to say that, well, technology, we are all busy with technology every day. Even if you play a very basic instrument such as a maraca, that's already technology. So we shouldn't be, worried about not being tech savvy, to try to, familiarize ourselves with technology that nowadays is less analog and much more digital. And especially we need to do this while, since probably March last year, we have assisted and continue assisting to major event cancellations and reschedulings in music and in other arts performing sectors, sports, etc. So why? Why live streaming? The first turn at the beginning of the pandemic, I think that given the impact of these closures and the cancellations that we've mentioned, was that there was really a need to create, collaborate, disseminate, and of course continue monetizing artwork. And although we've been all throughout the world, each different nations and regions continue going through waves. The social distancing requirements, stay-at-home orders continue to be in place, and there is no real idea of when live performances will become a viable source of income again. So I think it's still important to turn to online solutions for fan engagement and revenue. Having said that, let's put some dots over the i's. In terms of financial and economic considerations, I think we need to say that live streaming cannot substitute the income generated by traditional performance. But it's not a salvation, but it definitely has potential, an increasing potential for monetization. However, there are doubts about its sustainability. Second, there is a high level of competition. We've all seen how the market, even from a first moment, became quickly saturated. Having an excess of offer of live stream concerts compared to a low demand, and especially low engagement. Third, in general, to achieve high or professional quality live music live stream, the costs of production are a bit high. So that is something that in the few tips that I will be able to give over the next 30 minutes, we'll try to see how we can lower those costs of production. Next, we mentioned the low levels of revenue. In general, you can go to different reports from various markets throughout the world, but the maximum that, or let's say the average maximum that musicians are making only come to 30% of the regular income from a concert, and it's normally less, as we see. Then there is a diversity of business models. We'll talk about them throughout the presentation, but they are really hybrid, they are fluid, and there are like too many options, one could say. We'll see why I say this. Then important to mention in these initial financial considerations, there are like three models that we can distinguish for monetization. We can do events that are totally pre-financed externally. We can have events that are only partially financed externally, or we can have events that are completely at risk of the producer, which is often the artist, not always. Then along these three models of monetization, we can distinguish four types of access. What do we speak? Here we speak about free and open access. That's first. Second, we can have open access with donation model. Third, we can have access paying a ticket, more like the video on demand. And the fourth one is by subscription, that you are part of a platform that offers you several concerts as part of that kind of monthly subscription. Then I wanted to mention that as part of these financial considerations, in live streaming, the importance of a sponsor or a supporter to cover certain costs is really important to ensure certain fees for the artists and for all the tech equipment, tech team involved. And the last financial consideration would be the low level of engagement and specifically of economic support from online audiences that we'll talk about more in a minute. Then we can jump to the technical considerations. Again, we can distinguish two models depending on the type of content. I'm sure that all the musicians in the house know about this, and well, maybe other people from the audiovisual sector. But normally, when we watch TV or live stream concerts, there are two types. One, the ones that are on real time, that are happening when we connect, versus the ones that are pre-recorded. Why some people decide, and actually many people, to go for the pre-recorded option? Well, it reduces the risks of having some kind of problems with the technical production, and especially the variations of the stability and speed of the internet. There are then two models of let's say providing the content. We can distinguish those who use let's say an intermediary that is specialized on a specific technology that works between the producer and the platform, or they can be directly put public by the producer, which again is often the artist, on a platform such as Facebook, Instagram, etc. Then we distinguish four models in the technology intermediaries. We can live stream from home. We can live stream from a music venue. We can use a studio, or we can use a mobile unit that is used to go to a location that is normally out of the norm. And I think that with this we can close the technical considerations and mention briefly a couple of things about promotion and audience. Basically, in addition to all the objectives that we mentioned earlier of market development, of revenue creation, the online concerts are often used in two additional ways. One is to develop audiences or to maintain your existing audiences, at least during the pandemic restrictions, and secondly, also as a professional pitch. In this sense, it's quite key to count on a non-financial partner that can give you access to larger audiences. What do I mean by this? Instead of you going solo, and just trying to make your impact through your fan base and, let's say, spending your own money on promotion, you can try to partner with, for example, a festival where you've performed, or a cultural center, or a media outlet that has given you coverage, a commercial brand, so that when you live stream, they also replicate that content through their profiles, and ideally in different platforms. That way, you are banking on their audiences, not only yours, and that can multiply the impact of your live stream. And the last comment about these audience considerations is that the attention levels online are quite low. So after these considerations, I've prepared certain sections that are going to speak about the tools, the technical, the platforms, and and let's say the production management of live streams. I see that we are running a bit low on time, so I will see where we reach in the next 15 minutes. Just to close these considerations, I just wanted to say three things. First, that live streaming is not a perfect financial substitute for real concerts. We've explained it, and I think most of you will have experienced it and seen it over the last almost 2 years. Second, live streaming is not a perfect cultural or emotional substitute for real concerts either. Again, I think that our personal experiences can vouch for this. And third, and most importantly, and that's why we are devoting time to concert live streaming today, is that live streaming is no longer a niche strategy. On the contrary, it's an accessibility imperative and a potential catalyst for other kinds of virtual innovations. So that is why I encourage you to, keep trying, keep developing your expertise around it. And now I'm just going to look in the chat so that to see that everything is well. So first of all, we are going to look, as I say, to the section on tools and technical, and then we'll look at the platforms. About tools and technical, you may have seen the different setups that can be used for live stream, and we are going to speak about the let's say most common elements that one can find. Those common elements are determined, but what you want to do, and what you want to do is register, mix, and edit two sources, mostly audio and video. So let's begin how to do that. Here we have another picture of a setup of elements that will be mentioned over the next 15 minutes. First of all, the most basic element that you need for your live stream, if you are not using a professional setup, that means contracted crew or hired studio, you need a computer. When we say computer, this is open. As most of you know, this is also a computer. Our smartphones are already powerful enough to handle a live stream. However, when approaching a concert live stream and adding layers of complexity, I would suggest that you go for a laptop style. Well, laptop or desktop, but in general, it needs to be a computer with with of the highest quality possible. Why? Just because you will have fewer glitches. But if you don't have a good computer, you can come up with ways in which to use your mobile phone or your tablet. Tablets, smartphones, and often laptops already have the two other assets that you need to live stream, which is a camera, one, and a microphone. Both of them are normally integrated either in your computer, in your tablet, or in your smartphone. What is recommended to have in addition of your computer? And excuse me because I've jumped to sound. It's recommended to have additional webcam cameras. That can be a video camera or a webcam, ideally of again highest definition possible. You can have an external microphone, and even an adapter, or an audio interface, and you can also have a video interface. We've already discussed, I think, the computer now. We are just going to briefly look at the microphone and amplification This is not intended to be, let's say a webinar for sound engineers or for aspiring sound engineers, and I am not one, so I'm not an expert. However, uh, live stream, live streaming in general condenses in a similar way as to opera used to do in the 19th century. It's like encompassing many different technical and creative talents. That's why, as you will see in the slides that I've created. So first of all, a microphone, it's important. Why? Because it captures the sound, the acoustic sound, and transducts it. That means that it converts the sound into electric signal. Depending on the use that you want to give your, to that microphone, you may want to use different kinds. Here, for example, we are looking at a headset. Normally, this you wouldn't use it for a music performance or capture itself, but you may have an MC or a presenter in your live stream, and he, she, or they could use this. Then we have the handheld microphones that are common in the industry, the famous Shure SM58, that these are handheld microphones are also of dynamic type. That means that they just work like a speaker in reverse, to say it shortly. We also have other types of mics that are used more in studio type, like condenser mics, ribbon mics, and again, talking about less. Well, I mean, for example, certain string players will know this kind of mics, like lavalier, lapel, that are used when the microphone when you require movements when performing and you want to maintain the signal. So here we've just collected examples. Important to know, because this comes very often into the live streaming setups, that you have two basic types of mic connections. The two types is XLR, that is the traditional analog one, or you have USB mics. Why I mention USB mics? As I said, they are very common in live streaming, and second, they tend to be a bit cheaper. There are some, ones that have become very common. This is what we mean when we talk about XLR, and I'm sure you all know this is what we mean when we talk USBs. Talking about these mics, you can get good professional mics from, let's say, I would say $150 upwards. There are, of course, other kind of extras that you may want to use when miking, which is like an anti-pop filter. You may want to have a shock mount. You want to have like an articulated arm or stuff like that. Or even if you are recording in external environments, other additional elements, but these are the most basic. You may also need some level of amplification. So you may want to have headphones or earphones, or use a PA. Just if you use a PA, just bear in mind that there might be feedback or noise. So you have to be careful with that. Then after, let's say, registering the sound, you need to often digitize it and then mix it and edit. These are the main processes that you cover when you say you record. That we really simplify it, and they involve all these other processes. The interface, normally all computers have some level of sound interface. This is the inner part. Here you see the outside connections of an old sound card. That is the most basic audio interface. But then you have what is called audio capture card grabber. That this, for example, has been used a lot to digitize vinyls and cassettes and tapes into MP3. And these, what you see in front of you, costs around $15. And then we have let's say, the professional sound cards that are really useful when trying to get a more professional work. Just the one that we have here for you to know, I think it can, I'm sure that you have friends, if not you yourselves, with these kind of sound cards, as they can start at 40, $50, and the one that we have there in front of us is around 150. The other thing that you want to do after having registered your source and having transformed it into the kind of signal you want is that you want to mix it. And to mix, you use a mixer. Here I've put just a very common one today. That is a very small portable digital mixer. Mixers can be analog or digital. If you use an analog mixer, probably then you have to transform the signal. The let's say advantage of this one is that it directly transforms the signal we have without having to rely on an external one. Then after mixing, you may want to edit the sound. There are several sound editors. For example, there are some free ones, well, both for PC and Mac. For PC, Audacity, Fruity Loops; for Mac, GarageBand, and of course, you have a plethora of paid options, from Pro Tools to Cubase to Logic, with licenses going from the $200. So then we've talked about the first part, which is the audio, the strictly music part, the sound that we have registered, captured, uh, transformed, mixed, and edited, if needed, the addition. Then we are going to talk about video, which is the second other source that one needs. With video, here I've already put recording with external camera. Why? Because it's, of course, one can, can do an Instagram live stream concert using this camera. I have seen more than than what I want, and I'm sure you too. Why I say more than what I want? Because normally the quality of both the video image and the sound are quite poor. Therefore, we suggest that the video recording in video recording you should use an external camera. It doesn't need to be an expensive camera such as the one that we are seeing now on screen. You have several options, and there are certain elements that you may want to add to your camera, like the ones we are seeing, for example, now in this slide, to increase stability, to make it easier get the proper shot image by the cameraman, etc. There would be a couple of characteristics that you may want your camera to have, such as a flip screen, like in this one, that also the tracking of face or eye. You may want it to be a 4K camera, and this is very important for us musicians. We want to, if we are buying a camera for concert live stream, we want it to have an external microphone port, which is really key when doing a professional music live stream. Very briefly, the types of cameras that you can buy are USB webcams. You can buy what is called then advanced compact camera. You can go to for a mirrorless option. That depends on your budget and the kind of use that you are going to give your camera. Lastly, in a similar way as we said with the mics and the sound part, there are other kind of accessories that you may want to use, like tripods, like hard drives, like bags, like connection kits, etc. So we've talked about the camera. Now, how do we register, mix, and edit? Similarly, as we said before with the audio card/audio interface, the better graphic or video card that we use in our concert live stream, the better product that we will achieve. And especially we will achieve the same level of quality on an easier way. The graphics card can be internal or external. We can use a capture card that I'm showing here, two kinds of them. That this is to make it easier for you to transform your, let's say, a signal that comes from your, on one side from the USB into HDMI. Here you can see how it looks when you connect. In terms of video editing, I'm not going to comment much. Just say that before this, here you can see what video jockeys, including myself, used in the early 2000s to mix different video signals, and the kind of effects that could be used, and the kind of controls that and mixing that we could do. The other option that you could use was switchers. That switchers have developed and into a very interesting format nowadays for live streaming. Here you have an Atem Mini Pro. This tool, you can get it for around $300, and it's really cool to be used on your live streams. It's going to make them look much, much better. Very briefly, remember that if you are going to be doing a real live stream, you need to check very well your internet connection, and, excuse me, your also your power connection. In purpose of time, I'm not going to stop much in these slides. As we say, we will make them available, so you will be able to see the different, and I'm going to start passing them through, different ways in which you can get your sound and your video into your streaming PC, different kind of layouts and assets that you can use, a different routing, etc. So, but all these, we've gone into the, let's say, we've talked about hardware. Before we go into software, well, no, we've mentioned already the internet and the power connection and its importance, so we'll leave it there. Very basically, what is live streaming software? It's let's say a coder, a program in your computer that allows you to digitize and code your videos so that they can get sent to the streaming platform of your choice, and they can be actually seen by your audience. This live streaming software is used on your computer, and we have let's say what they allow you to do is mix different sources of sound, add graphics, scenes, and personalized designs. You can mix real-time feeds of video from anywhere, drag and drop style from webcams, from smartphones, sharing screens, and you can also stream to different platforms at the same time, which is called multi-streaming. Basically, live stream software can be grouped in three categories, which is the free options, the paid options, and online options. That these latter ones are not in our computer. Those are they are the most recent ones to have appeared. As we are really approaching the end of our time, not so much of our content, I'm going to increase the speed and just have a look at the let's say mention the live stream software options that you have. OBS Studio. Here you have OBS stands for Open Broadcast System, and it's free, open source, works on Linux, Mac, Windows, etc. And it's really complete and versatile. I encourage you to check it out. The second option is also an OBS, but it's called Streamlabs. It's like a bit more, it looks a bit fancier. It's very much used, as you see on this screenshot, by video gamers, and really it can make you look a bit cooler than or than the traditional OBS studio that is more, let's say, orthodox. Stream elements is more about having add-ons that can be put into your live stream. So as you see, it also uses OBS as as the primary template, but it's more about let's say trying to stream in a more professional way. There are multiple other options like the ones that you see here on the screen: Wirecast, XSplit for Broadcaster, and others. I'm not going to mention them all because it's really many of them are paid options. I don't think it's the first point of entry for many of you, but it's worth checking them out. As you can see, the live streaming market has increased a lot. This is a very important concept that I want to mention, which is multi-streaming. I said it a bit earlier. Streaming to different platforms or what they call simulcasting has it gives you an increased reach. It reduces time and effort. It gives you more insights about your audiences, and and it helps you to meet your audiences wherever they are. So multi-streaming is really something that you should aim to achieve. For example, today's webinar, now we are using Zoom, and there is a streaming on Zoom, and we have also connected it to Facebook, so we are streaming in two platforms today. This multi-streaming in general can be done easily with through certain services, like the one that we see here that is called Restream, and helps you, let's say, to multi-stream in a more concise way. Then section 2, excuse me for that, live streaming platforms. We've talked about the software. So now, and we were talking about multi-streaming in multiple platforms. What are these platforms? So let's see. I mean, if we look at this slide, I'm sure you recognize all of these logos. How we have prepared this section is just to talk about the different streaming platforms from the perspective of how you access. So this first, we have the free streaming platforms like Facebook Live, the one that we are using today. Then we have Instagram Live, that, as we know, has been used a lot by musicians over the last 2 years, especially. Both of these two platforms are free, and currently they work both on cell phone and laptop. Instagram at the beginning was only for cell phone. As we mentioned earlier, well, we are using now Zoom to live stream, and we are restreaming to Facebook. Mixcloud Live is especially used in electronic music and DJs. Excuse me. And there are, of course, other options, especially the best known ones are the ones you see here that are really, let's say, conferencing platforms. The second group of streaming platforms would be those that offer the donation option. We can they host what they call free-to-play live streams. That if anyone wants to access but contribute financially, they have normally the tipping option. The most famous one here, or most used, is YouTube Live, which is free, works also on PC and cell phone, saves your videos. It's really one of the, let's say, at the top of the market. However, especially linked to gaming, this platform called Twitch has had an amazing success. It's also free. It also works on cell phone and laptop, and it's really fantastic. I know about many musicians and actually festivals that are hosted exclusively on Twitch and not on Facebook Live. Other options running quickly are this one called Caffeine. Uh, we have Sessions Live. Here you have the screen uh, and others that, for example, have closed, such as Periscope. And then we reach the ones that are tickets, that you need to actually to buy a ticket to be able to access it. There used to be one pre-pandemic that was called Concert Window. That was actually fantastic. So live streaming, as we said earlier, pre-existed COVID and was actually successful. And these guys probably, if they have stayed open, after the pandemic, they could have really achieved something. They are no longer there, so let's talk about the ones that can actually be used. Stageit is one of the best options. Here you have a screenshot of the website. It's really one of the biggest ones in the market, existing also since 2011. So you cannot go wrong with this one. Then we have Vimeo live stream. Most of you know Vimeo, and they have created this specific platform for live streaming. And again, many other options like Crowdcast, Picarto, Topic Alive, Show for Me, Around the World, etc. Too many to mention. Just for you to know, there are all of these, of course, offer you sound and video at the same time, but we've seen an increase of use of strictly audio platforms, but that is something that maybe goes beyond the scope of today's webinar. And to close, I've put here this poster that I came across some months ago, which I think is useful in terms of how to navigate this all this ocean of options that we have. So as you can see here, it says I'm a musician, which live stream platform should I use? Okay. Then it says, do you want fans to buy a ticket before you stream? Yes. Well, Stageit. In this one is the only ticketed platform that they suggest, but I've just mentioned several others. And if not, you have here Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live. Then the importance of monetization, yes or no. You would, as we said earlier, if not much, you would go with Facebook Live. If yes, Twitch or YouTube Live. And if you want people other than your followers to easily be able to find your stream, if yes, Twitch, and if not, Facebook Live or YouTube. So that is what we can say about the streaming platforms. And given the time, I think that I'm just going to run quickly through this. There we are going to we were going to talk in the next section about production management, but this is not that far from what we talked about real tools. Yeah, exactly. You really need to take care of your finances, check your expenditure budget, try to come up with alliances and sponsors, and even advertisers. You have to be very wary of your pricing model, trying to balance your, let's say, money needs with your audience needs. Here you have a couple of, charts about what is supported but what not in the different platforms, what are the normal splits, and also remember that you have to check in terms of trying to instill good governance for the art sector in general. Use contracts both with the in all sides, your different capacities, and be aware of the taxing that live streaming has in most countries a different taxation than real concerts, as it's a digital service. Let me see, because I see someone is experiencing sound problems. I would like to ask, I'm sorry for that, Henriette. Can you hear me properly, Cameron?
I can hear you okay at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, Henriette, for those sound problems. Thanks, Ken. Um, Trying to again jump quickly. You need to think that your audiences, when you live stream, are digital or virtual, and have an online experience, which is very different from the one that we are used to. You have to think about the frequency and regularity of your live streams very similarly to when you perform live in the same city. How much time you should leave between one and the other. Uh, the real-time interaction is definitely very different in live stream concerts. So in this sense, you should try to develop specific strategies for your engaging with your audience through the chat, which is normally the only option that you have when doing live streams. And you need also to check the good thing of live streaming compared to physical concerts is that at the end of the show it offers you quite an accurate uh, amount of data in terms of stats and analytics of your audience. You know how many people were there for how long, the average duration, etc. These examples that you see here are taken from the analytics of Twitch, for example. And lastly, and with this I close, I promise, because I know I'm going about to go over time, I just had gathered here a couple of, creative concepts and techniques that are useful when thinking about a live stream, about content. You can come up with different formats. You can theme your shows. You can work a lot with this, and you should work a lot with the space allocations you have. Think a lot about the acoustics. For example, I'm sure you all know the different ways of isolating sound, of making sound better with this kind of acoustic foam, or even with carpets and cushions and curtains, etc. A crucial aspect for video is, besides the quality of the camera itself, is the lighting. So there are different ways in which you can get proper lighting, and I suggest you look at the different ways and the different types of lighting that you have, like uh, and options that can even come in form of candles that give a lot of ambience in live streams that happen in small venues. Decoration and scenography, same thing, and the chroma. Probably this thing of the green screen that helps you to blur your background, something that today I have not used. However, not having used the chroma, I hope that this presentation has been useful. I open now a bit of space and time for Q&A. If there are any questions on this second block devoted to live music today, where we've talked especially about live streaming. And I just take the opportunity to thank you all. I leave you here my email address, and you can find me also on social media. And that's it for me today. Just a final vote of thanks again to all of you for being here today on the presentation, to our sponsors, Samro and the Samro Foundation, and remind you that over the next two remaining Thursdays of August at 5 p.m., we will have the two other remaining webinars of the business component of the workshop series. And next week we will have Helen Poslo presenting on fundraising, and last Thursday Cameron Andrews presenting on the different career paths, profiles that the music industry today has. So I'm checking on the chat. I see that there is an EPK follow-up question. Do music producers need an EPK? I'm asking because producers are not likely to perform or look for gigs. Fantastic question. I don't know who's placed it, but the answer is definitely yes. Actually, music producers need it can use it smartly on the same way that composers can use it. I mean, New Music SA is an organization primarily whose associates are composers, along performers, along music critics, along programmers, etc. So definitely, yes, producers can have it. Of course, you won't have a section that sticks to the tour dates, but you may want to have a larger section around your discography, around your collaborations, around your productions that you've done for yourself, around your productions that you've done for others, of different styles, different albums, different songs. You may want to highlight how each of them has worked better or worse, for example, in terms of awards, in terms of streams, in terms of radio airplay. So I hope that that responds to the question that no matter the kind of music creative you are, you can adapt your electronic press kit to your, let's say, identity, to your personality, to your genre, to your sector, subsector, etc. So I don't see any more questions. I don't, Cameron. I don't know if you are with us. I just want to ask you if there are any other
I'm here.
questions on Facebook.
No more questions, Ignacio. I think we've answered them all. Just another request for the presentations, and I've also replied about that. As you said, we'll be posting all the presentations as well.
Fantastic. Well, then I would like to close thanking again all of you that have been here, and especially Henriette Shorn from the Samro Foundation, David Lepoto from the New Music SA board, and my brother in crime, Cameron Andrews, for always making things smoother, easier, and lovely. And with this, I believe this is all from me. I'm sorry for having taken almost 2 hours of your time, but I hope it has been useful. And I'm going to stop my sharing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ignacio. Wow. When I said you knew a lot, I underestimated how much you did know. I mean, I didn't think we could talk or you could talk for 2 hours on live streaming and EPKs only.
Well, as you've seen, I talk a lot in general. I try only to talk about the things that I think I know a little. Today, I may have overdone that, but I hope it's been clear and useful for our audience. And thank you, as always, for your support and your kind.
It's been fantastic, very, very interesting, even for me. Um, I actually don't have an EPK, so I've realized maybe I need to do one. I've
Well,
got bits
now
and pieces here and there. So thank you for all the input that you've given us.
fantastic. Thank you, Cam, and I hope that these tips help you and the rest of our audience to develop, better, in this case, EPKs, and in general, assets and tools to continue progressing in our music careers.
Fantastic. So we'll say goodbye to everyone here, and we'll see you next week, same time, where we will have Helen Vosloo on fundraising from the artist musician's perspective. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you again. And don't hesitate to reach out on email and on our social media platforms if you've got further questions. And look out for those presentations. Cheers, everyone. Good night.